on today's video, we are going to be doing the review on the AimWin PN320 multi-reticle red dot. Now, most of you have probably never heard of AimWin, and that is because they are a brand new optic company. They reached out to me right before SHOT Show, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing a review on a couple of their optics. Now, I met up with the guys from AimWin at SHOT Show, had a great discussion with them about their optics, and shortly after SHOT Show they sent out this PN320 and the PN330, which we will be doing a separate review on this optic. Now, we're going to go over some of the specs of this red dot throughout this video, but we're not going to do a real deep dive into all the specs because I already did an unboxing video on the PN320 and the PN330, and we covered everything that comes in the box and all the specs of both of those optics in that unboxing video, and I will link that at the end of this video. So let's head out to the range, start testing out this optic, and have some fun. Now, after I got the optic zeroed in, I started shooting some 10-shot groups just to get warmed up, get a feel for the gun, get a feel for the optic. I had just finished up shooting the Ross Martin RM1S and the Smith & Wesson M&P 22 Magnum before that, so I needed to get adjusted to going back to the Glock 19 Gen 3 clone. And even though my groups weren't that good, I was having no issues seeing the 2 MOA red dot on the targets, and I was only using the dot, but we'll get more into the multi-reticle system here in a few. Now I'm going to show you that this gun is clear. There is no mag and nothing in the chamber. So let's talk a little bit about the red dot. So this does have a 2 MOA red dot, and it also has a 32 MOA circle. Now you can run it with just the dot, you can run it with the dot and the circle, or just the circle. Now the dot is plenty bright. It's not the brightest dot that I've tested on the channel, but it is bright enough for any shooting conditions that I'm going to be in here in Ohio. With that being said, I was running the dot on the brightest setting, and I am getting a little bit of starbursting. It's not the dot's fault, that's my fault. I do have astigmatism, but if you do have astigmatism, keep in mind it will starburst on you just a little bit, but it's actually pretty good. I have tested a lot of dots on this channel that starburst a lot worse than this dot. Now, what's really nice about this optic, if you are one of those shooters that likes to use a dot and a circle, you're going to be very happy with this. Now, when you're running the dot and the circle, or just the circle, it's pretty crisp. Very, very little starbursting. And one thing that I noticed, it is a lot brighter when you are running the dot and the circle. So when I was running it with the dot and the circle, I was dropping the brightness down to 8 with that. All right, target on the left, all alphas. We've got all our hits on steel. The next target, we've got all alphas and 1 Charlie. All right, the next target's really looking good. All alphas. Nice little cluster all together. All our hits on steel. And our last target, another nice little cluster, 4 alpha. Now the PN320 actually has 11 brightness settings. You've got 2 NV settings and 9 daytime settings. So let's talk a little bit about how you adjust the brightness settings and how to switch between the multi-reticles. Now you have your up and down button on this side of the optic. Now obviously if you want to adjust your brightness level down, you're going to hit the down button. If you want it brighter, you're going to hit the up button. To switch between the multi-reticles, what you're going to do is hold the up button. Takes about 3 to 4 seconds and it will switch from the dot to the dot and circle. You will hold it again for 3 seconds and it will switch to just the circle, and you will hold it again to go back to your dot. Now this optic does have shake awake. I tested the shake awake on this optic before I took it to the range and after I took it to the range, and the shake awake has performed flawless. Now, if you want to manually shut the optic off, you are going to hold the down button for 3 to 4 seconds, and the optic will shut itself off. But keep in mind, if you do that, you will have to hit the up button to turn the optic back on. Because if you go to grab the gun out of the safe or out of a holster and you've shut the dot off, it's not going to turn back on. If you are going to use the shake awake, leave the optic on and let it shut itself off. Now, the PN320 does have a side load battery tray, and this runs on a CR1632 battery. So the battery life on this optic is only 10,000 hours. That is one of the trade-offs of going from a 2032 battery to a 1632 battery. But being that it does have shake awake, and the shake awake works really well, you will not have to change the battery anytime soon. And being that it is a side load battery, it's not that big of a deal because it's not like you have to take the optic off the gun to change the battery and re-zero it afterwards. Now, the PN320 is constructed out of T6 aluminum. It does have a hard anodized finish, and it is IPX7 waterproof. And I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but this does have the RMR footprint. All right, our target on the left, we've got 3 Alpha and, that's close, probably a Charlie. We got all our hits on steel. The next target, we've got all Alphas. And the next target, we've got all Alphas and 1 Charlie. All our hits on steel. The far target on the right, we've got 4 Alpha. Now, one thing that we talked about in the unboxing video about this optic was the windage and elevation adjustments on this. They are actually very tactile and very audible. One of the best as far as optics that I've reviewed on this channel. Now, speaking of the windage and elevation, it is 1 MOA per click, and you do have 50 MOA of total adjustment on the windage and the elevation. Now, the PN320 actually has really nice glass. It does have just a little bit of that blue tint, and the PN320 is parallax free. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the durability of this optic. And if you look right here, there's a pretty nice little ding in the housing in front of the glass. And that is because when I mounted this optic, I did something that I very rarely ever do because I know better. When it comes to the Glock 19 Gen 3 platform, that you need to use just a little bit shorter screw on this side of the optic than you do on this side. Now, I did shave the screw down, but it was still just a little bit too long. And what happens when you do that, that screw goes down and digs into the spring, and it gives you a very erratic ejection pattern. And as you can see in a lot of the shooting footage, a lot of that brass was coming up and smacking the front of the optic, and it held up all day with no issues. So when I got home and started editing the video footage, I was pretty impressed with how many hits this optic took with brass flying out of this G19 clone. So let's get into my final thoughts on the AimWin PN320. So we've already pretty much talked about all the pros of this optic and what I liked about it throughout this video. And the question a lot of you are going to have is what sets this AimWin optic apart from a lot of the other optics? And let's be honest, not a lot. There are a lot of optics out there with the RMR footprint now that have a multi-reticle system, and it's coming in at a price of 200 beans, which is right on par with a lot of the other budget optics that are out there. But a couple of cool features on this dot that a lot of the other dots don't have. One would be the very low base on this optic. As you can see, my suppressor height rear sight is sticking up pretty high above the base of this optic. So even if your sights are a little bit shorter than my suppressor height sights, you're not going to have an issue with your co-witness. And one of the other things that I really like about this, when you're using a multi-reticle system on a pistol dot, having the 2 MOA dot with the 32 MOA circle is just about perfect. If you go any bigger than that 32 MOA, the dot gets just a little too big and it's taking up too much of your window. So the multi-reticle system on this is pretty awesome. So let's talk about a couple cons that I have with this optic. My first one's going to be the fact that the optic does not have a backup iron sight built into it, which a lot of optics nowadays have that. Now with this gun, it's not a big deal at all because I do have my suppressor height sights. But a lot of guns, when you go to mount an optic on it, you're going to lose the rear sight, and this does not have a backup iron sight built in. So if the dot goes dead, you're in a little bit of trouble. And my second con with this optic is the fact that it only comes with a 5-year warranty, which nowadays in a market that is completely saturated with red dots, most of them nowadays have a lifetime warranty, and a lot of optics that are coming in cheaper than this still have a lifetime warranty, and this is only coming with that 5-year warranty. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with this optic. I like how crisp that dot is, especially for someone like me that has astigmatism. And I always think it's super cool to have a multi-reticle system if you do want to use the dot and the circle. And I'm also looking forward to working with AimWin in the future because they've got a couple super awesome enclosed emitter dots that are getting ready to come out. But one suggestion that I want to make to AimWin is you definitely need to start offering a lifetime warranty instead of a 5-year warranty on your optics, because you're kind of behind everybody else by not offering that lifetime warranty. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.